All right, everybody. How y'all doing this evening? Going to get started here. I'm going to let folks file in. Let's see who's with us this evening. Give me some hearts. Give me some thumbs up. Let me see who's here with me this evening. Okay. Al Fahim Mohammed is here. Who else is here this evening? Come on, guys. I don't get cooking until I see you. Idris Palmer is watching. All right, brother. Assalamu alaikum. Let's go. Okay, they're starting to fall in now. I see some thumbs up. Give me some thumbs up, folks. I'm gonna get into some good stuff this evening. Got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot to talk about. Okay, let's give the folks a couple more minutes. A few more minutes. Robert E. Williams Jr., that's what I'm talking about. Who else do I have? We got a good subject tonight. Duke Eatman. Okay, gave me a thumbs up. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Wa alaikum salam. All right, I'm going to get started now. Now, tonight's main topic is concerning the subject that kind of, who's that there? Eric Pickbay. Assalamu alaikum, brother Kwame. That's what I'm talking about. That's it. Uh-oh, Sister Teresa's here. That's right. You guys not giving me any love tonight. Give me some thumbs up, man. That's what gets me cooking. Amin Phillips, Monty. Okay, now my riders are coming in. Good. Wa alaikum salam. Ian Burrows. Okay, thank you, brothers. Come on now. Okay, so Ismail Shabazz, Teresa Mahfoud. Okay, good. All right, this subject developed out of last week's talk because I read a letter or some notes of Malcolm last week at this particular stage in his relationship with the Nation of Islam, where I said that he was trying to get back in the nation or get restored as the minister. Not get back in the nation, but be restored as the minister of the Nation of Islam. And it grew out of a discussion we were having about this hot new movie that's out on Amazon Prime, One Night in Miami. It's a very hot topic. There's a lot of Oscar buzz around it. Folks really singing the praises of the actor who played Malcolm, Benadir. It's a lot of buzz around it. But as I shared with you last week, many of the historians and the folks who are still living, who were around those events, had problems with the histories, a lot of problematic aspects with the history of that production. We really wish they had taken the time to consult scholars and experts and researchers and first-person accounts of what happened. But now we have what we have, and I gave my take on that last week. But I also said that Malcolm, at a certain point in his relationship with the nation, at that time, when he was in Miami with Cassius Clay and Jim Brown and Sam Cooke, that Malcolm was trying to restore his position in the nation, and he was trying to use his relationship with Cassius Clay to kind of earn the good favor, get back in the good graces of Elijah Muhammad and the nation, which was never going to happen. Okay? And some folks misconstrued what I said as somehow Malcolm, after he leaves the nation on March 8th, 1964, that somehow at some point he would make an attempt to get back in the nation. He wanted to come back. That is absolutely false. If someone says that, knowing that it's false, they're a liar. That is absolutely not true. It can't be true for a whole lot of reasons. And we're going to talk about some of that tonight. But before we begin, let me share this little conversation I had with you with Sister Khalila Camacho Ali. As you know, she was in Who Killed Malcolm X, and she's the second wife of Brother Muhammad Ali, who knows a lot about this history, as you can well imagine. Okay, I called her to confirm some of the facts that I was teaching last week, and I always like to review my notes and solidify my knowledge. I always want to be accurate when I come before you guys. Okay, it's very important to me, and I really pride myself on that, being meticulous and being thorough and rigid. Okay, but I'm gonna tell you right now, she's not happy. She's really not happy with this production. We didn't talk a long time. But she let me know that she's not happy with it, that she will be issuing a statement to voice her concerns. She doesn't blame Regina King because she said, the sister was only working with the material that she was given. Okay, so I guess her main concern is with Kemp Powers, the brother who wrote the play and then translated that into the script. She didn't use his name, but I guess that's who her main issue is with the brother who wrote it. He's a Howard alum as well. But she said, those men were dignified men. She said men in those days didn't talk like that, using all that profanity, right? All that gutter language. And she's right. I expressed my concern last week about how these productions become history in the public imagination. Many people don't read the books. They don't go back to the primary and secondary sources. They just watch the movie, and that's how it happened. And her concern was there are young black men who will watch this and will think that that's how those men spoke. And she said in those days, men didn't speak like that. Okay? Maybe, in a locker room, okay? But not on the night of this great victory, together celebrating, this momentous occasion. It would have been a very, elegant evening, and these men spoke in a very refined way, and she was really, really put off by that, and she thinks that really it amounts to an aspersion on their character. And you know what? I have to agree with her. For all of my positive sentiments about the movie, yes, we have to be concerned about the negative aspects of it. Okay, the things that are wrong. All of that drinking. Muhammad Ali, as you know, did not drink back then. We told you that they were drinking milk that evening in the hotel with the ice cream. And so I just wanted to share that with you. I asked her, did I have her permission to share that with you? She said, sure. I have no problem with that. She said she's going to be issuing her own statement soon. Okay. Now, the question of, was Malcolm going to come back to the nation after he left the nation? We have to address that because that is out there. All right. The topic tonight is some people say that Malcolm was going to come back to the nation. Malcolm wanted to get back in the nation after he left. Let's discuss it. The question is, who is saying this? Who is propagating this falsehood? And if they say it knowingly, they're lying. Who is doing this? Well, the answer is quite simple. It's members of the Nation of Islam, beginning with its head, Minister Louis Farrakhan. He is the one and his ministers who have been spreading this falsehood that Malcolm was trying to get back in the nation. And in fact, they have constructed this whole narrative, all right, that absolves them from the assassination. And in fact, if you go to the YouTube channel of Sway in the Morning, you know, the radio host, Sway, the hip-hop radio host, he did an interview with Minister Louis Farrakhan in 2015. And during that interview, Minister Farrakhan says point blank, you know, Malcolm was trying to come back in the nation. All right. Now, that was seized upon by one of his ministers, really more than one of his ministers, but in particular, there's one infamous interview by one Minister Nuri Mohammed that he gave on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne. How many of you all saw that? Give me some thumbs up if you saw that interview. Okay. So Charlemagne asked Nuri, you know, tell us about this lie that the Nation of Islam killed Malcolm. And Nuri goes on and on and on with a bunch of nonsense and falsehoods and half-truths and pure mendacity. And then he's got this really catchy phrase, you know, brother, Malcolm wasn't killed by the FOI. Malcolm was killed by the FBI. So he says that, and you know, we like that, right? Black people, we like to be entertained. Oh, really? Sounds good, you know. Oh man, you know. And then he's going on and on and on. And he says, well, do you know that there's 13 missing chapters of the autobiography? 13 they're in the Schomburg now. Yeah, you can go to the Schomburg. There's 13 missing chapters from the autobiography. And I'm going, oh my God. Jeez. Wow. Okay. Then he goes into the, Malcolm wasn't killed by the FOI. Malcolm was killed by the FBI. And did you know that Malcolm was trying to come back in the nation? Yeah, he was trying to come back. He was, you know, like, he was there. And he was killed by the FBI before he could do it. All right? That's a pure lie. It's a falsehood, and I'm going to say that if Nuri knows that it's false, and I don't know how he couldn't know with all of the information that we have, all right, all of the scholarship that's been done, all that we know about Brother Malcolm, I don't know how he couldn't know that's false. I'll say he's wrong. I won't call him a liar. But that is a pure falsehood, and we want to break that down today. That is absolutely untrue. Once Malcolm left the Nation of Islam, it was over. It was a wrap. Okay? Mentally, intellectually, spiritually, he was in a total different place. Okay? And we're going to see tonight why it was impossible for him to come back to the nation. The Nation of Islam had created such a hateful environment in the Nation of Islam against Malcolm, that even if Elijah Muhammad said, I want to take him back, he probably wouldn't have been able to come back. That's how deep the hatred and vitriol against Malcolm ran in the nation. All right? So, let's go back a little bit. All right. How did this all happen? Somebody said, I got my pink notes. Right, Monty? Monty said he likes my pink note. You see, first of all, you have to understand this. It was never, ever, ever going to end good for Malcolm and the Nation of Islam. Okay? That relationship was never going to end good. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, the Nation of Islam is a misnomer. It is not Islam, and it's not a nation. Okay? It has nothing to do with the religion of Islam. In fact, one Imam, Shadid Mohammed, shout out to Shadid for coming up with this. NOI means no Islam. Okay? The Nation of Islam's doctrines are anathema to Islam. They are repugnant to Islam. All right? And so Malcolm would have figured that out. Okay? At some point, he would have figured that out because he was a very sincere man. Okay? Aside from the very powerful intellect that he had, his heart was very sincere. And he said, if I'm to be remembered for anything, I want to be remembered as being sincere. Even when I was wrong, I was sincere in my era. Okay? So he was a sincere man, and the Nation of Islam is not Islam at all. And he would have figured that out. And in fact, there were many people who watched the rise of Malcolm and the prominence of Malcolm, who understood that even before he did. All right? Said, man, this man is too intelligent to be talking about some grafted devils, to be talking about mother planes and mother ships flying around that's going to destroy the white man. This man is way too bright to be going around here worshiping a white-looking man and saying this man was Allah in human form, W.D. Farad. This man is way too sharp for that. He will figure it out. Yes, he's caught up in it right now, but there were many people who said it won't be long before he ultimately has to leave this. Okay? This is pure falsehood. And the Nation of Islam preaches pure racism. You know, it amazes me. It amazes me how this organization can still get run in the black community. How they can still get television time and radio time as if they're somehow respectable. Okay? In 2021, 1930, 1940, 1950, 60, 70 even, that's a different ball game. 2021, an organization that says an entire race of people are devils just because of their race, and we put them on shows and we act like they have something respectable to say, something intelligent to say. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, and I'm not trying to mock, I'm just telling you the truth. Minister Farrakhan is teaching his followers that Elijah Muhammad, who died in 1975, is flying around in the sky on the mothership. And he is the exalted Christ. He's really the Jesus, flying around on the mothership with Master Farad Muhammad, Allah in person. That's what he teaches these people today, right now. And they soft pedal it. They kind of, keep it in the background. But this is their teaching. The mothership. It's flying around, and one day Elijah's going to reappear with Master Farad Muhammad. This is their teaching. Malcolm would have at some point figured that out, because it's just, and in fact, if you go to this interview, February 18th radio program Malcolm was on, he even mocks this teaching. He said, man, they believe in a spaceship in the sky, whatever, okay? Anyway, so that's the first point. They were jealous of him from the minute he joined, even when he joined Mosque Number 1 in Detroit, when he was living with his brother Wilford. And then there was another brother that he lived with, Robert Hossein. They were accusing him of trying to take over the mosque then, 1952, when he got out of prison. They knew he was different. His vocabulary, his intellect, his very, very fine self-education automatically generated jealousy against him. So it was never going to end good for him. All right? And it's false. And Elijah Muhammad is not a messenger of God. And I'm sorry, I don't want to get religious tonight, but whether you believe in Islam, don't believe in Islam, or what have you, you should at least know, right, what Islam is and what it isn't. All right? Islam is based upon the teachings that were revealed to Prophet Muhammad of Arabia 1400 years ago. He is the final prophet and messenger of God, and there is no other messenger. And he's the messenger to all mankind, all right, whatever race you are, because all of the races ultimately come from Adam and Eve. All humanity is one. And this God that we worship, the God of the Muslims, is a transcendent God. He's a God that cannot be conceptualized in any shape, form, or fashion. And the Quran teaches, Laysa kamithlihi shay'un. There's nothing you can compare to him. There's no partner does he have. He has no partner. He doesn't resemble his creation in any way, shape, form, or fashion. He cannot be conceptualized, envisioned. He says that no vision can snatch him, but he snatches all vision. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't get tired. And he's not a man. Allah says in the Quran, Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad. Lam yalid walam yulad, walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Say he, Allah, is one and unique. Allah the eternal, the absolute. He begets not, nor is he begotten. In other words, he doesn't have children, nor was he born. And there's nothing that you can compare to him. Okay? So right there from the Quran, all right, Farad is a fraud. Fraudism is, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but it has nothing to do with Islam, because in Islam we don't worship men. We don't worship human beings. We only worship the eternal, transcendent God, Allah, and beside him there is no other. Okay, let me take my Imam Kufi off now. I'll put it over here. Okay, get back to the subject. But Elijah Muhammad took advantage of his position as a so-called messenger, and he got involved with all of these secretaries, these very young women in his community, and he gave them babies, and this developed into quite a scandal. Malcolm learned about the scandal, and I want to take it to Phoenix, Arizona, April of 1963. Malcolm has already confirmed that Elijah Muhammad was having these affairs with his secretaries and these babies. He's done his investigation. He's had it confirmed. He knows it's true. And like the man that he is, he wants to confront Elijah Muhammad face to face about this. He had been discussing this matter with Elijah's son, Wallace D. Muhammad. All right. And Malcolm saw this this development as a mortal danger to the existence of the nation. Okay? Because if this scandal ever got out, he felt, it would absolutely decimate the ranks. Okay? He talked about walking around in fear of any reporter walking up to him, asking him about it, because it was messing up his mind. All right? But he wanted to confront Elijah about it, which he did. Elijah confirmed it, and Elijah framed it. He framed his immorality and his dalliances in terms of prophecy. And he said all of the moral failings that you find prophets committing in the Bible, because this does not exist in the Quran. The Quran does not attribute these kind of moral failings to prophets. Okay, the Quran clears prophecies, but the Bible, yes, it does say, that Lot had relationships with his daughters. It says that Noah got drunk right after the flood and then cursed, one of his sons, Ham. It says that David committed this offense against the husband of Bathsheba, and so on and so forth, right? He said, when you read all of that, you're reading of me. You read the Bible, that is really a prophecy of me. I must fulfill all of that. And in fact, he was basically, he was confirming the new teaching that Malcolm was introducing in the nation. Because actually what happened was Malcolm said that he and Wallace had gone through the Bible and the Quran, and that they had formulated this new doctrine, okay? This new dogma, that a prophet's good deeds outweigh his bad deeds. Okay? A prophet's good deeds outweigh his bad deeds. All right? It's just like right now we're all waiting for the COVID vaccine, all right? Well, Malcolm saw this new teaching as the vaccine that would be distributed to the community, infused into the community to give them immunities against the public disclosures of Elijah's immorality. And so Elijah said, yes, son, you were always good with the prophecies. And then he goes, I am all these prophets and I must fulfill all of this, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, here's the problem. Once Elijah knows that Malcolm knows about this issue, okay, he starts to see Malcolm as dangerous. In fact, he already started seeing Malcolm as being dangerous, because when Malcolm was interviewing these secretaries, the children who bore the children of Elijah Muhammad, they were saying that Elijah would tell them that, yes, Malcolm is, he's my greatest minister, but there may come a time where I have to watch him. Okay? He could be a dangerous man to me. And it cut Malcolm to the heart, to hear that. Kind of pillow talk, when men and women are talking, intimate moments. So Elijah already had concerns that, that Malcolm, because Malcolm was very sincere, a very sincere man, not corrupt at all. Corruption was all around him, but he himself was not corrupt. He believed in this doctrine. He believed in this movement. All right. So when Malcolm left that meeting with Elijah, he had a different understanding than Elijah had of what they were going to do with this new teaching. Okay? This was such a sensitive issue that both of the men were kind of dancing around it. You know what I mean? And they didn't really get clarity about what Malcolm was really going to do. Malcolm believed that he had the permission to go and teach the ministers in the nation this new doctrine, that a prophet's good deeds outweigh his bad deeds. So, in other words, if someone finds out that our little lamb, our holy apostle, is fathering these children, then what we say is, hey, he's only a man. Even the prophets had failings. God forbid, a'udhu billah. All right? So he goes back to the East Coast from Phoenix, and he starts telling the ministers and some officials, Captain Joseph X. Gravitt, the captain of the FOI in Muhammad's Mosque number 7. He tells Minister Lewis X. Walcott of Boston. He tells Minister Lonnie X. Cross, the new minister in Washington, D.C. Lonnie Cross is mentioned in the autobiography. Interesting personality. Here's a brother who had a PhD in mathematics and left the chairmanship of the Department of Mathematics at Clark Atlanta. Listen to this. He was the chairman of the mathematics department at Clark Atlanta. He gives that up, which is a 10-year job. He's good for the rest of his life. He left that job to become the minister of Muhammad's Mosque number 4 here in Washington, D.C. when Lucius Brown got sat down. Okay, can you imagine that? In fact, he would go on to become Abdul Alim Shabazz, and he taught at Lincoln. And before he left this world, Lonnie X. Cross, Abdul Alim Shabazz, was responsible for training 90% of the black PhDs in mathematics in America. Isn't it something? Either directly he trained them or one of his students trained them. Like 90% of the black PhDs in mathematics go through this man, Lonnie X. Cross. Okay, he told Minister Isaiah X. Edwards or Isaiah Kareem in Baltimore, and he may have told a couple other people, other ministers. Okay. Now, problem is, these ministers already knew what was going on. They already knew about the children. They already knew about the secretaries. They already knew about Elijah Muhammad's illicit relationships. Okay? The truth of the matter is really only Malcolm who didn't know. He was the one in the dark. No one wanted to talk to him about it because his heart is too pure. You know what I mean? They said, man, this man, he's 10 toes deep. He believes, this will hurt him. They kept Malcolm out of the loop. Even his brother Wilford knew the truth and wouldn't tell him. Wilford was the minister of Muhammad's Mosque number 1 in Detroit, right? And sometime earlier, around the time that Malcolm actually learned the truth was around March of 1963. He flew to Detroit and he asked Wilford, "You knew about this? You knew?" Wilford said, "Yeah, I knew." "Well, how come you didn't tell me?" Malcolm said, "You didn't tell me? You wasn't going to tell me about it?" You know what Wilford said? Wilford said, "Well, if I would have told you, all you would have did was go back to Elijah Muhammad and accuse me of being a hypocrite. That's all you would have did. You wouldn't believe me, right?" And Malcolm thought about it. He said, "You know what? You're right. You're right." And how do we know that? How did Wilford know that? That's how Malcolm treated his brother Reginald, right? Remember when Malcolm was in prison? Malcolm is already now very, very deeply committed to the nation. And his brother Reginald had gotten a little trouble. Same kind of trouble, premarital relationships, okay, illicit relationship. His brother Reginald was dating the secretary of Muhammad's mosque number 7. And he got put out for that. He got put out for that. But, Reginald had heard these things about Elijah Muhammad. And so he said, okay, if the dear holy apostle, the Lamb, is doing it, okay, if he's doing it. But he got busted for it. So when he came to visit Malcolm this one time, okay, Malcolm he wants to talk about the teachings because Reginald is the one that brought him the teachings in the Norfolk prison colony. So Malcolm wants to talk about the teachings, and Reginald's like, hey, man, the man may not be what you think it is, man, I don't. And Malcolm's like, what? Not you? What? Well, you'll find out, You'll find out. He ain't all he's cracked up to be, what have you, okay? But just for the slack talk, Reginald's slack talk against Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm boycotted him. Okay? Boycotted his own brother. So Wilfred knew his brother. Wilfred wouldn't tell him. So Malcolm tells all these ministers who already know the deal. All right? Who already know the deal. And what do? They, over time, start calling Elijah Muhammad and saying that Malcolm is spreading defamatory information against the messenger. He's sharing, your personal business. He's spreading a fire through the community. He's spreading, slander and false news through the community. He's trying to, undermine you. So this is the situation that he's in. He thinks he's trying to save the nation from this ensuing scandal, right? He's going to inoculate the community. The ministers already knew about it, and they were going back to Elijah Muhammad with the way they were framing it as if Malcolm was trying to make a play, that Malcolm was trying to, maybe even try to become the leader himself. Okay, so now, and you can see here that by December 1st, 1963, okay, the day he gave the chickens coming home to roost speech at the Manhattan Center, he was already on some precarious ground. Okay, he was already on some shaky ground. All right. Elijah Muhammad's children despised Malcolm. They despised him. All right. Not all of them, not Wallace, not Akbar, the 2 youngest, but Emmanuel, Lottie, Ethel, Elijah Jr., Nathaniel, all right, Herbert. They absolutely hated Malcolm. They hated him. Okay? They hated his sincerity. They hated his brilliance. They were jealous of him, even though he is the one who made it possible for them to get rich off the Nation of Islam. Elijah Muhammad's children were kind of like dunces. All right? They were working very menial jobs, like driving taxis and doing jobs. Nothing wrong with that, okay? But it is Malcolm who took up a special collection from all of the mosques so that the messenger's children could work for the nation full time. Okay? So he put Elijah's children in the position to where they were able to benefit financially from the nation. And he created the myth around these children. He started calling them the royal family. The royal family. Okay? And this stuck, the royal family. Whenever they would come, to New York, he made a big deal about it. Well, brothers and sisters, today we have the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Brother Herbert, would you please stand up? We have Minister Wallet. And he created this myth, around them. All right? The royal family. And it is this royal family that would turn against him and ultimately destroy him. Now, Malcolm gets sat down. December 1st, he makes the chickens coming home to roost speech. You saw this in Who Killed Malcolm X, right? That's what time I'm working with here. You saw this in Who Killed Malcolm X. The very next day, He flew to Chicago for his annual meeting, a monthly meeting, pardon me. Okay, I'm doing good. I'm doing good here. I'm gonna wrap this up. Okay, every month he had to go to Chicago to give a report. This time, he knew he was in trouble, you know. Yes, yes. He knew he was in trouble. He gets sat down. Elijah said, "That's a bad statement you made. It's a bad statement. It's a terrible statement you made." Okay, I'm going to have to suspend you for 90 days. Malcolm is submissive. You know, he accepts it, and you know, he's very humble, and he's going to take his medicine. Okay. Now, initially, he was just sat down from preaching preaching to his community, and also giving statements to the press. Okay. So he couldn't speak to the press. He couldn't speak to his community, but he was still the minister. He was still running the mosque. He still handled, mail from his secretary and so on and so forth. Okay. He wasn't quarantined, like put in a status where no one could interact with him. He wasn't totally boycotted. He was just silenced. All right. He was just silenced. But as December moved on, you started to hear certain things about Malcolm, okay? Propaganda was being circulated against Malcolm. James 67X said that he started hearing people refer to Malcolm as red. Okay, so people are disrespecting him. All right, disrespecting the minister, calling him red. These are rank and file people, just anybody. Now it's okay, right, in the restaurant to call him red. And you started hearing things like, well, they say Malcolm was never really with the messenger anyway. Okay, this is the little slack talk that's being circulated. All right, now Malcolm really didn't know, what to do with himself. He did violate the prohibition of speaking to the media a couple of times. He did do that. The media asked him about his silence. He said, I was in the wrong and I accept it. And, I'm still the minister. And he was saying these kind of things to the media, even though he wasn't supposed to. He did violate that from time to time. Okay. But by January 2nd, things were getting worse for Malcolm because he couldn't defend himself. Normally in the Nation of Islam, when someone got in trouble or they got silenced or they got put out, they were given an opportunity to address the congregation. Malcolm wasn't allowed that. Okay, he was not allowed that. And he really didn't understand that it was the so-called royal family, and in particular, John Ali and Raymond Sharif. John Ali, the national secretary, who you saw and who killed Malcolm X. He's still alive today. And Raymond Sharif, they were really the main ones running the nation at this time. Elijah Muhammad now, he's caught up with the cutie pies, and he's got these youngins. He's out here making these babies, and he's kind of turned it over to Raymond Sharif and John Ali. The war between Malcolm and the family is now at a I would say fever pitch, but it's very problematic because now Malcolm can't defend himself All right. You've had these ministers saying that Malcolm was trying to spread the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's personal business. And now that Malcolm can't defend himself, the royal family can make all the complaints they want to make. It's time to get rid of him, Daddy. You know, he's trying to take over the nation and yada, yada, yada. Okay. So Elijah Muhammad on this January 2nd, he calls Malcolm and he blames Malcolm again for spreading this lie, and he likens it to a fire. Okay, you out here spreading fires out here in the community, and you know, Malcolm just, you know, he said all he wanted to do was get an opportunity to defend himself and what have you. Elijah Muhammad is really going in on Malcolm on this particular phone call. He's going in on him. And this was picked up by the FBI, by the way. If you go to the FBI documents on Elijah Muhammad, you can actually hear what Elijah Muhammad was actually saying. I didn't have all the text here because I didn't want this to be too long. Yeah, so Elijah's going in on him about spreading these fires, and he's angry with Malcolm because Malcolm got into this row with his family and so on and so forth. And you know, Elijah's starting to decide that he's going to knock Malcolm down a few notches. Okay, he's going to decide that not to put Malcolm out, but he's going to diminish him. He's going to put him in a diminished capacity. He's going to basically sack him from being a minister. On the next day, which is January 3rd, he calls Captain Joseph, and he tells Joseph that he's going to replace Malcolm. All right, and on January 5th, a couple of days later, he installs a new minister in number 7. And do you know who that new minister is? James 3X McGregor from Newark, New Jersey. The same mosque that the assassins are going to come out of. James 3X McGregor will, of course, go on to be known as James Shabazz. All right? He is the one that Elijah Muhammad tapped to take Malcolm's rostrum, to take his ministry. But he leaves the mosque in control of Captain Joseph. So Joseph is really running it. James is the minister. Okay. Also, around the same time, around the same day, Elijah Muhammad summons Malcolm to Chicago, pardon me, to Phoenix, not Chicago, to Phoenix, because now he's in Phoenix. He summons him to Phoenix, and he's going to have a trial for Malcolm, or a court, where Malcolm is going to have to, you know, defend himself. And at this court is Elijah Muhammad, John Ali, and Raymond Sharif. Okay, they are the judge, the jury, whatever, right? And Malcolm again acknowledges that he was irresponsible in sharing Elijah Muhammad. He's contrite, and he's humble, and he admits that he was irresponsible in sharing, the messenger's business. He was trying to protect the community and what have you. And all he wants to do is be able to come before the community and make his case. And Elijah says, you need to go back and put out those fires you started. That's what you need to do. Okay? They wasn't having it. He wasn't having it. Of course, John Ali and Raymond Sharif are just beside themselves with glee and joy to see Malcolm being knocked down by the messenger. Okay? Now, something else also happened at this so-called trial or court. By the way, Wallace was supposed to be there too, because they were accusing Wallace of spreading this stuff. But Wallace had an excuse. He said that he was under parole, which he was, for the draft evasion thing. It had been released, earlier that year, and he was on parole and he couldn't travel out of state. So it was just Malcolm was the only one that ended up being there. But at that meeting, Elijah Muhammad put Malcolm in quarantine status now. Okay? He's in quarantine. He's now in a lower status where he's not even allowed to interact with any of the believers in any of the mosques. At the same time, his wife, Sister Betty X, is still required to attend the Nation of Islam meetings. Because she didn't get put out, but he did. Okay? She wasn't quarantined, but he did. And she did, and she continued to go, and she heard all of this slander against her husband. Okay? And she had to endure all of the stares and the negative energy, the low vibrational energy, so to speak, against her husband, and it was torture. All right? Now, Malcolm couldn't defend himself, and John Ali and Raymond Sharif then went into another level of propaganda against Malcolm. And it's at this time that the hatred, the vituperation, the venomous propaganda against Malcolm was cascading down through the community. And what people were saying, man, if you knew what Malcolm was saying about the dear holy apostle, Messenger Muhammad, you would kill him yourself. Okay? This is what was being said. Even James McGregor, James Shabazz, even said it from the rostrum, from the podium. This was being openly said. So much so that one day around this time, Malcolm was walking down Amsterdam Avenue with Charles 37X Morris, who would go on to become Charles Kenyatta. Now, at this point, Charles is violating. He's not supposed to be with Malcolm. All right? Nobody's supposed to be with Malcolm, but he was. And they were walking down the street, and they ran across by a young brother who was standing there, looking at him, all grimacing with his fist clenched, And Charles said, man, what's your problem, man? The minister said, if you knew what Malcolm was saying about the messenger, you'd kill him yourself. And Charles said, well, then you go get the minister and have him say that to the minister's face, to Minister Malcolm's face, okay? And this is where it was, man. This is where it was. It was really, really tense. And, Malcolm had to clear his mind. And so he welcomed this invitation by the young, brash boxer, Muhammad Ali, or Cassius Clay, excuse me. He's Cassius Clay at this time. Cassius Clay is in the nation. I mean, he's not formally in the nation. He can't be, right? Because of the nation's ideology, is anti-white ideology, and all the, the money that's tied up in boxing, all these white sponsors and backers. He can't, but he's been involved in the nation going back to 1959. And, I shared that with you the last time we talked. But by January 14th, Cassius is down there training in Miami for the big fight with Sonny Liston. And, of course, we talked about how he had developed a very loving and close connection with Brother Malcolm. He saw him as his mentor, his big brother, and they were very good friends. And he knew Malcolm was in a little trouble. Come on down, man. Come on down to the camp. Relax your mind. Come on down with Sister Betty. And this was the first vacation that Malcolm ever had with his wife in the 6 years of their marriage. They were married on January 14th, 1958. And he accepted that invitation. But before he went, on the 14th, his anniversary, he met with Alex Haley on his autobiography for 7 hours. 7 hours. He met with Alex Haley in the International Hotel, which was adjacent to JFK Airport. Alex Haley had come down from Rome, New York. When they first began the project, they would meet in Greenwich Village, where Haley lived. But now he was living in Rome, New York, and Malcolm met him there at the International Hotel, and they worked on the book for 7 hours, okay? Now, this gets to, let me just put a pin here for a minute, because this gets to the so-called 3 missing chapters. No, Nuri, it's not 13 missing chapters. It's 3 chapters. And the Schomburg only has 1 of them, okay? For the record. If you even want to call them chapters, okay? This just really was edited material. And what you have to understand now is at this point, right, Malcolm's relationship with the nation is changing radically. The whole purpose for the book was to extol the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, and to show its reformative power, and to use his own life, right, as the example of those teachings, of the power of those teachings. But now things are getting more complicated, okay? He's in trouble. And the nature of the book is changing now, okay? And so the material that was in the book, some of it had to be taken out. It didn't work anymore, stylistically. Are you following me? All right, are you following me? These 3 chapters were kind of didactic. They were kind of preachy. They were more like speeches. And as Malcolm is talking, it's kind of a form of therapy with Alex Haley. All right? And so the nature of the book has to change. And that's what was going on there. All right? Malcolm and Betty fly down to Miami, and they have a lovely vacation. The 15th, the next day, they go to the beach. Malcolm's taking pictures, right? An article comes out about Malcolm and his wife. You see that very famous picture of Cassius Clay holding Ilyasa and Malcolm and Betty. Okay, the only vacation they ever had, it was their wedding anniversary, and it also was their honeymoon, because they never had a honeymoon either. Okay, he has a great time, but still a lot on Malcolm's mind. A lot on Malcolm's mind. He did not go down there. To recruit Cassius Clay like is presented in One Night in Miami. That was not the purpose at all. Okay, not the purpose at all. In fact, it wasn't even clear. That that Cassius Clay was going to win that fight. All right. At this time, the Nation of Islam wasn't claiming Cassius Clay because they thought he was going to get killed. All right, everybody did. But what happened was Betty and the kids went back January 19th. About 4 days later, and then a couple of days later, on the 21st, Malcolm and Cassius Clay flew to New York. And Clay went and attended a, thank you for all those hearts, folks. It means a lot to me. Clay went and attended a Nation of Islam rally at the Rockland, it was called the Rockland Palace. And he made some statements there. Malcolm didn't go. He stood, he stood back because he wasn't allowed to go. All right. But Clay went, and he only went for 1 day. And he flew right back to his training camp. He broke camp. Now the media got a hold of this thing. Oh, my God. Clay is going around with Malcolm. What does this mean? There was already this whiff, this whiff of the black Muslims around Clay. All right. It was already this whiff. But this was really creating a problem now for Clay. And even, I believe, the Amsterdam News even printed something on this. In fact, let me read it to you real quick. I want to read that to you. I don't want to be too long-winded. Let me know if I'm being too long. Let me know. Do y'all love this teaching? If y'all love this teaching, let me know with some hearts, man. Y'all are getting kind of stingy with the hearts, man. Let me know if you like this stuff. Let me see something here. Okay. Okay, good. This is what Cassius Clay said. This was reported in the Amsterdam News. He said, I'm a race man. And every time I go to a Muslim meeting, I get inspired. Okay? This was after he went to New York with Malcolm for this one day, for this NOI rally. He gave a statement. You follow me? To the Amsterdam News. He said, I'm a race man. Every time I go to a Muslim meeting, I get inspired. On February 3rd, the Louisville Courier-Journal published an interview with Clay in which he all but admitted his membership in the nation. Sure, he said, sure, I talk to the Muslims, and I'm going back again. He declared, integration is wrong. The white people don't want integration. I don't want integration. I don't believe in forcing it, and the Muslims don't believe in it. So what's wrong with the Muslims? Whoa, this created a firestorm in his training camp. It created a firestorm. Why? Because, first of all, very few people even believed that this was a real fight, okay? Sonny Liston was a beast. Sonny Liston would knock his opponents out. The last 3 opponents he had, he knocked them out in the first round. Okay? He was Sonny Liston was a reviled person. He wasn't liked at all. Okay? He had a criminal record, and he was rough and tough. All right? But Muhammad Ali managed to make the press hate him more than Sonny Liston. They called him the Louisville Lip. Okay? The Louisville Lip. With all of his antics and his shenanigans and his theatrics. All right? Right? His loud talking and all of this. All right? And now, this affiliation with the Muslims, the black Muslims, okay? This created problems. They couldn't sell the tickets already because folks thought it wasn't going to be a good fight. The tickets weren't selling. I believe the tickets were $250. That's a lot of money in 1964. That's a lot of money. That might be like $2,500 a ticket back in those days. That's a lot of money. And the tickets weren't selling. So the promoter was going apoplectic. And to make matters worse, Malcolm flew down about 4 days. I want to say the fight was on the 25th. 5 days before the fight, Malcolm flew down there. All right. And now the promoter, a guy named McDonald, he's crazy. Okay, he's going crazy now. He's going crazy. Clay is like standing by his friend Malcolm X. He's standing by him. And in fact, he's even getting a little bit more vocal and belligerent. Okay, and you know how Cassius Clay was back at that time. And so they struck a deal. They said, look, man, I can't have... Look, if Malcolm agrees to kind of go in the background, we'll give him a good seat. We'll give him a good seat. And that's how Malcolm got seat number 7, ringside. That's how he got the seat. And number 7, is a big number in the Nation of Islam theology. Number 7 is it's the number of God, Allah. In the 5% nation, number 7 is a big number. So Malcolm was there at number 7, which he took as a good sign. Okay? And of course, no one gave Clay a chance. No one gave Clay a chance. There are books that say that Malcolm, as a last ditch effort, okay, because Malcolm is thinking. He's thinking this through. He's thinking this through. What if I don't get reinstated? What if I don't get reinstated? I'm in trouble. Betty was pregnant with their fourth child when she took that trip down there. She was pregnant with their daughter, Gamilla. Okay? Malcolm relied on the nation for everything. Okay? He had a $150 a month stipend. All right? That he lived on. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot today, but $150 in 1963 was $1,276.83. Okay? On top of that, James 67X, James Shabazz, who would go on to be Abdul Razak, he told me himself that the Nation of Islam's budget for Malcolm, to maintain Malcolm's schedule, his expense account, was $3,000 a month. $3,000 a month. Now, what is that in today's money? $3,000 in 1963, 2021 is $25,536.67. That's how much it cost the nation to maintain Malcolm's schedule. All right? His airfare, his accommodation. And keep in mind, in the early 60s, there were no discount airfares, discount carriers. It was expensive, black or white, okay? It was expensive to fly on planes in those days. But Malcolm was flying everywhere. He had drivers, he had meals, he had a budget. That was his budget, equivalent of $25,500 a month. That would be gone if he was no longer a minister. Most importantly, his house would be gone. All right? Dr. Betty Shabazz, later on, she said that Elijah Muhammad gave them the house, okay, as a gift. And but Elijah Muhammad wanted Malcolm to sign the deed. He said, oh, no. And he told Betty, anything happens to me, the nation will take care of my family. Yeah, he didn't get it. He that's what misplaced belief, right? That's what misplaced belief will do for you, okay? Make you make very, very foolish decisions. And she peeped game long before he did. That caused a lot of problems in their marriage. Okay, later on, it was a big shock. In the early 90s, Dr. Shabazz, she did an article for Emerge magazine. And she said she left Malcolm like 3 different times. They used to argue about that money, man. In fact, at this time, even the rights to the autobiography were signed over to Muhammad's Mosque Number 2 Poor Fund. So even the royalties from his own book of his own life story was signed to the nation. So if he didn't get reinstalled, he didn't get put back in position as the minister number 7, he was going to be in a world of trouble. And so now let me bring this talk to a conclusion, okay? It is at this moment, it is around this time that Malcolm is feeling very vulnerable. He's very, very vulnerable, and he's under a lot of pressure, okay? Also, he loves the nation. It was a long, 12-year marriage. And he built this brand. Peniel Joseph said in Who Killed Malcolm X that, Malcolm built this brand. Okay? He was, more invested in it than anyone. All right. And he wanted to see it survive. It was the most powerful black organization he had ever seen, certainly at that time, and he wanted it to survive. Regardless of Elijah Muhammad's moral failings and what have you, we can fix that later. Okay, we can deal with that later. He won't be around forever. But this organization, I gave 12 years of my life to it. And, I wanted to survive. So, he was associated with this brand. It's like asking Steve Jobs, all right, to walk away from Apple. And also Steve Jobs did leave Apple, right, the board at one time. It's like asking Mark Zuckerberg, all right, to walk away from Facebook, or Bill Gates to walk away from Microsoft. All right? That's what this amounted to. Okay, when Malcolm got out of prison in 1952, the Nation of Islam had about 400 people. If it had 500 people, it had a lot of people. Wilford, his brother, said, and remember, Wilford was close to Elijah Muhammad. When Elijah Muhammad got out of prison, he would stay in Wilford's house in Detroit. The Littles were very, very close to Elijah Muhammad, and the early redevelopment of the nation once Elijah Muhammad got out of prison. Okay, Wilford said when Malcolm got out, nobody knew about the Nation of Islam. No one had ever heard of it. So now Malcolm is down here, and he's replaying his life, where his life is going to go in this moment of vulnerability. All right. That's when you see these letters that I read last week. This apology letter that's online. Malcolm X apologizes to Elijah Muhammad. Okay. That's what you're listening to. You're listening to a man that's very vulnerable, a man who's in a lot of pain, a man who's going through a divorce. And when you're going through a divorce, you gotta leave, but you still love the woman. Your heart is still with the woman. You hope it goes, you can work it out, you know what I mean? But all the facts are against you and your mind is all spinning, you know what I mean? That's where Malcolm is at this point. Of course, we know the story. Cassius Clay is going to win the fight. No one thought he would win. 58 sports writers converged on the fight. Of the 58 sports writers from all different publications, only 3 of them gave the fight to Cassius Clay. 55 out of 58 sports writers believed that Muhammad Ali was going to get destroyed. The New York Times didn't even send a sports writer. They sent a features writer. You know what the subject of this story was going to be? What hospital would Cassius Clay be taken to once he got flattened in the ring by Sonny Liston? After he got destroyed by Sonny Liston in the ring, what hospital would he be taken to? That was the story they were going to write. Nobody believed that he was going to win. So that when he won, this is where One Night in Miami, picks up. And now I just want to, we know all of what happened. I talked about that in the last talk, and I'm running over my time right now. We know what happened that night. Muhammad Ali, or Cassius Clay, felt a little, he could feel that Malcolm was perhaps trying to use him as a chip to get back in the nation. Here's what Malcolm was thinking at this time, that wouldn't it be glorious to show up at Savior's Day with the champ, and me having inspired him and served as his spiritual advisor and give him confidence, to win the fight. That could be my claim. to get back in the nation. That would be my role. I could show my usefulness. It was a long shot. And he knew it was a long shot. It was a desperate play. Okay, it was a last minute play. He didn't go down there with that thought. Okay, but as he believed that Clay would win the fight, and he said, well, maybe I could, maybe it could be like old days again, just like a bad marriage, right? He said, well, maybe if I do this, but all the facts are against him. Okay. And again, we talked about how towards the end of February is when Captain Joseph sent for Brother Lukman to wire his car with explosives to blow him up. Clay does become Muhammad Ali, but not just yet, not yet. Hold on, let me slow up. He announces his affiliation with the Nation of Islam. He attends the Savior's Day, and he's embraced by the community, and of course the media is in an uproar. Okay, they're in an uproar. Nevertheless, Clay drives to New York with his brother Rudy and about 6 other brothers. He's got a little crew with him. He rents 2 3-room suites at the Hotel Teresa. He calls Malcolm. Hey, he's still, he knows Malcolm is in trouble, but he loves the brother. And that's what these pictures you see in One Night in Miami, the picture of Muhammad Ali clowning, at the restaurant with the bow tie. Malcolm's taking the pictures and all like that. That's this time after the fight. Malcolm will soon be out of the nation. Malcolm will soon be out of the nation. And now I'm going to bring the talk to a close, brothers and sisters, okay? I'm bringing the talk to a close. I don't like to speak too long. I don't like these videos to be too long. But March 4th, Rudy, Malcolm, and Muhammad Ali, Rudolph, or Rahman, who goes to be Rahman, they go to the UN. Okay? They tour the UN, United Nations, for 2 hours. 2 hours. There's a video online. Bring it up. It's called Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali in color. It's an amazing footage. Now, I don't know if it was shot in color or if it was colorized, but you see Malcolm and Muhammad Ali, his brother Rudy, and some diplomats, okay, and they're interviewing Muhammad Ali, and they're interviewing Malcolm, and they're interviewing the diplomat. Pull it up. It's extraordinary footage. You know why? Because in 4 days of that clip, Malcolm is going to be out of the nation. And even up to that point, now remember, he's already supposed to be out of his suspension now, right? This is March 4th, all right? And he's still singing the praises of Elijah Muhammad. Go watch it. Don't take my word for it. Go watch it. It's incredible footage. March 4th. Now, March 6th. A lot of people think because of One Night in Miami that Clay got his name Muhammad Ali at the Savior's Day. Not so. Okay, if you look it up, you can go online. When did Muhammad Ali become Muhammad Ali? When did Cassius Clay become Muhammad Ali? It will say March 6th. Why? Because at that time, Elijah Muhammad issued a statement on radio. It was recorded in Chicago and WWRL in New York. Malcolm was driving. He was driving around his car, and he heard it. And Elijah Muhammad said that Clay is not a good name. I'm going to give you a divine name, I'm going to call him Muhammad Ali if he will choose to wear it and to follow me. Words to that effect. Oh my God. Malcolm, when he heard it, Malcolm said, he did that to block me, so to speak, in words, okay? He did that he saw it was a power play. So Malcolm hit the gas. He said he wanted to get to the hotel to get to Clay before Clay heard it. And it's that on March 6th when Malcolm got a speeding ticket for trying to get to that hotel. All right. He got pulled over. He used to keep a Bible in the dash in the windshield. You know, that's a trick of ministers. You know, they get pulled over. They say, oh, I have one of my parishioners in the hospital. They're dying. I got to get there, you know, the last rites or whatever, right? Didn't work, though. Didn't work, and he got a ticket. By the time he got back to the hotel, Clay had got the news that he was Muhammad Ali. Malcolm knew that the jig was up. That was March 6th. March 8th. March 8th, Malcolm goes to the home of M.S. Handler, Mike Handler, reporter for the New York Times. Mike Handler has a piece in the autobiography, and he issues his statement that he is leaving the Nation of Islam, and he gives his reasons and so on and so forth. Now, that seems like a lot of history. Boy, are you going to answer the question why Malcolm would never come back? Here's why he wouldn't come back. He had reached the conclusion that it was actually Elijah Muhammad himself who was blocking him. He got no response from these letters. It was more than one. You know, I read one. There's that apology online, but there were numerous letters that he sent. Initially, he thought it was just John Ali and Raymond Sharif blocking him and not allowing it to get to Elijah. But then you read in his diary that's at the Schomburg, you see that Malcolm started believing Elijah himself was behind all of this and that he was blocking him. The moral failings were enough for him to cast off the entire belief system. All right. He had people working on him all this time. He had Wallace Muhammad, who was giving him da'wah. All right. Or he was teaching him the religion. There were people approaching him all the time. I don't want to get into it. Osman Ahmed, the Sudanese brother. Okay. You had the Imam of the State Street Mosque. There was a lot of people, Muslim students, all those brothers and sisters at the UN. And he felt that it was time to accept the true Islam. From the time Malcolm broke, March 8th, 1964, until the time he went on his Hajj, about 5 weeks later, April 13th, 1964, he was attending on a regular basis Islamic classes at the Islamic Center in New York under the personal tutelage of Dr. Mahmoud Shawabi. Okay? Shawabi was a big Muslim Brotherhood leader. Ikhwan al-Muslimin. There's a group out of Egypt. He was a big leader. And those are all the people who took Malcolm around on his Hajj and made all his accommodations and what have you. Okay? By the time Malcolm came back, well, let me backtrack. When he left, even though he said that he still believed in Mr. Muhammad, I credit him for all that I know, whatever. Malcolm made that statement on April 12th during the ballot or the bullet speech, the version in Detroit, because there's two versions. The day before he went on Hajj, he said, I'm still a Muslim. I still believe in Mr. Muhammad. In other words, I still believe in Mr. Muhammad's version of Islam. That's not true. Okay, that's not true. By the time Malcolm went on Hajj, 5 weeks after he left the nation, he was being instructed very carefully, very meticulously by Dr. Mahmoud Shawabi. His sister Ella, who was already a Sunni Muslim, was giving him teachings. All right. So that statement of Malcolm was basically an olive branch and also a way to keep his followers, because the brothers and sisters who left the nation with him, okay, they weren't on that page. They went on the page of Orthodox Islam. All right. So yes, his experience on the Hajj was enriched. He did cast off the burden of this white devil albatross. He did fall in love with the humanity and all of the colors and the races that he saw. But it's not like he went on his Hajj and then he became a Sunni Muslim. No, he had to authenticate that even before he left. He had to be co-signed by Mahmoud Shawabi, because in order to make the Hajj, you have to already be a Muslim. You follow me? So by the time he came back, and now I'm done. By the time he came back, he was fully in the faith, in the fold of the faith, and he would be on a mission until the day he died to teach the true and authentic teachings of Prophet Muhammad and the Quran, and the authenticated teachings of Islam found in the teachings of Prophet Muhammad. And he wanted to undo the damage that he had done by drawing these people into what he would, what he viewed as a cult. His brother Wilford, towards the end of his life, called the Nation of Islam a cult. Okay? And that's what I say. It's a cult. All right? And I stand with Malcolm. I make no bones about that. Okay? Sue me. I stand with Malcolm. I stand on the side of truth. So, one funny story, and I wrap it up. When he came back, these poor brothers, bless their heart. One of the brothers asked him. He said, Minister Malcolm, when you was over there in Mecca, did you get a chance to see the Savior? Master Farad Muhammad, did you get a chance to see him? Can you believe that? Did you see the Savior there? This is what they were on. This is how fast he was moving. He left them in the dust. Malcolm looked at the brother and laughed. He said, well, brother, we got to be a little bit more realistic now, man. We got to be a little bit more realistic. Okay? No way in the world was Malcolm going back to the nation. He couldn't go back. The hatred against him was too thick. And he was in such a diminished capacity, even if Elijah Muhammad allowed him to come back, which he would never do, okay, because he stopped believing in it. But even if it was to happen, all right, he would have never been received. It wouldn't have worked anymore. The break was complete, all right, and he was never going back. So with that, I'm bringing it to a close. I've talked a long time tonight. I hope I didn't go too long. Please share the video. I'm going to try to come, every Monday night. I'm going to make it my intention to try to be with you guys. I've got some good stuff lined up for Black History Month. You're not going to want to miss it. Please, please, please support your brother. I have a Cashapp, $ Abdur Muhammad, ABDUR. MUHAMMAD. If you want to hit me on PayPal, arm.legacy@gmail.com. I hope you all have enjoyed tonight's presentation. It's important to set the historical record straight. Today, I showed my bias. Yes, I'm with Malcolm when it comes to him or the Nation of Islam. Yes, I stand with him. So you already knew that anyway, right? So with that, I'm going to bring the talk to a close. If there's something you want me to talk about, hit me up on Facebook. Okay, put a comment up there. I'll get it. Someone asked me to talk about Leon 4X Amir. I'm going to get to him. I'm going to get to a lot of good stuff because Black History Month is coming up, and I'm going to be there with you. And we're going to get through the winter together, inshallah. And with that, I want to bring it to a close. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters. You have a good evening.